Welcome back to the Lakes Brass Quintet channel. I've missed you oh so much. If you've been wondering why hasn't the Lakes Brass Quintet done a video essay in like 2 months, consider the fact that most of us are teachers and it's now November 1st. So we've been a bit busy the past couple months. But I finally had a little bit of time to sit down and do a video essay today. Well, not really a video essay. I'm going to play through one of my favorite etudes for trumpet and teach you guys how to play it. So, if you're not a trumpet player, might I suggest you click on this playlist of all of our previous brass quintet arrangements. Enjoy all the playing we've done, and perhaps even buy some of our sheet music to play with your friends. It helps keep the channel running, and they're fun pieces to play. Alright, trumpet players, now that all the dorks are gone, let's talk about one of the most popular lyrical etudes for trumpet, Charlier No. 2. Now, not only is this etude really good for developing your lyrical style on the trumpet, but if you master this etude, you can plug it into so many different audition settings, from undergraduate to graduate and even doctoral auditions. And it just so happens that Phantom Regiment is using the first part of this etude for their auditions this year. Granted, it's not actually one-to-one photocopied from the etude. I'm sure they just put it into, well, probably not Finale, may it rest in peace, but maybe Dorco. Maybe they put it into Dorco, and instead of putting in a key signature, they just used accidentals to make it all happen, probably to avoid copyright K. But regardless, it's a very popular audition piece. I need a haircut so bad. It's like Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. Now, when I wanted to do this video about how to play Charlier No. 2, I originally wanted to just use my pre-screening videos from when I was auditioning for graduate schools back in 2020. But the truth is, I filmed those auditions on my old laptop webcam with a cheap microphone that I got off of Amazon. And honestly, the audio quality is not great. So I'm using this as an opportunity to feature our new microphones provided by SE Electronics. They set us up with an artist deal because of all the support we've gotten from you guys. So thank you to all of you who watch our videos, like, comment, and subscribe. If you haven't subscribed yet, consider subscribing because it helps us to continue creating content for you guys. How this video is gonna work is I'll play a section from Charlier No. 2 and then explain some of the trumpet challenges that lie within. Without further ado, here's the introduction. One of the most difficult parts you might find of this piece, or any piece really, is the first note. Whether that first note is super high, super low, or somewhere in the middle, you've got to have a lot of courage when you're coming in on the trumpet. And what makes this entrance particularly difficult is it comes in on the upbeat, specifically the and of 1. And that begs the question, where should I breathe? I highly suggest giving yourself a full measure of 3 in your head before coming in to establish what your meter is, but maybe don't breathe on beat 3. If you try to place that breath on beat 3 before the first measure, I find that I tend to hitch or tense up on the downbeat before coming in on that upbeat, and I'm more likely to crack that first F. So instead, I take a quicker breath on beat 1 of the measure, coming right in on the and of 1. While I might not fill my lungs up to capacity, I only have to make it through about 4 measures before my next opportunity to breathe. And I'd much rather take that than potentially tensing up and splitting that first note. Another big challenge of this etude is simply the key signature. I mean, how often do you play in B flat minor on the trumpet? So be particularly careful about your D flats and those G flats. A physical challenge that appears in this part of the piece, as well as all over the rest of the piece, are the octave slurs that Charlier writes. When you're slurring up an octave, I suggest you blow into the bottom note and then allow yourself to hear a little bit of a rip as you're going from that bottom note to the upper octave. Think about when a vocalist is singing a wide interval in a legato style. There's a natural glissando of the voice. Similarly, if a string player has a wide leap on the same string, there's going to be a natural glissando as they slide down that string. So as brass players, we tend to try to avoid that rip by either cutting off our air or over squeezing our abs to make that happen, which consequently cuts off our air. It's okay if there's a little bit of a rip or if you hear some of the other partials in between that octave. The more that you practice your lip slurs and lip flexibilities, the quicker you'll be at navigating those partials and the less you'll hear that rip. Now, at this triple tonguing section, you have a little bit of an opportunity to cut loose with your dynamics and play forte. But I highly suggest you pay attention to those pianos that come immediately after the forte. Every trumpet player can play loud, big, dare I say obnoxious. But the best compliment that you can get as a trumpet player, or at least the best compliment I've ever gotten as a trumpet player, is, well, I didn't know that trumpet players can play pretty. I heard that after playing a church gig, and it just made my day. We're trumpet players. We want to be that big, braggadocious, loud player, but demonstrate some bridled strength with this etude and really show off control of your instrument. Another general note about this etude, anytime you see an eighth rest with a fermata over it, give yourself a second to take the mouthpiece off of your face, let the blood come back before jumping into the next phrase. Because when you play this piece as a whole, it's about 4 minutes straight of playing. You're going to want to break when you can get it. You'll notice as I played through that introduction, I didn't exactly play in time all the way through. This is what we as musicians call rubato. It's the ability as the soloist to kind of play with time. It's a natural give and take. Now, if you've never played with rubato before, a good rule of thumb for starting is to identify your cadences or the ends of your phrases. Once you know where your phrase ends, I think the easiest way to start playing with rubato is to either speed up into that cadence, or what I do a lot in this recording is slow down into the cadence and take a little bit of extra time. Once we hit this mosso section, mosso meaning a little bit slower, our key changes from B flat minor to E flat major. And honestly, for me, the hardest part is remembering to play D naturals instead of D flats. In fact, that's what I had to go back and re-record a lot of. There's this one scalar lick that looks like it's going to be a straight up A flat major scale. Technically, it would be an A flat Lydian scale because we have a D natural, which would be the raised 4th scale degree. But compared to the introduction, this mosso section stays within its key a lot more and has a lot less movement. So it's fairly easy to put together if you remember your key signature, which I didn't while recording. so it took several takes. After our Meno section, we get a little French phrase that says sous forme de recit. A direct translation of this is in the form of a story, but musically recit would translate more to the operatic recitative. This is the part of the opera where they kind of sing the exposition, as opposed to the arias that are more song-like. You can think of it being like a musical theater patter song, where you dump a whole lot of information. Oh my god, he's talking about musical theater patter songs. He's such a theater kid. No doy, I'm a theater kid. Go watch that Oogie Boogie song we dropped last week and tell me I didn't play Shrek in high school. That was a lot of lore to dump about two little weird arpeggios. All that's to say, you can play these arpeggios a little bit out of time. They can just be more like you would speak a sentence, as opposed to trying to sing a full melody. And now comes one of the more challenging parts of the etude, where we have to navigate from the lower register all the way up to the upper register of the horn with really, really wide leaps in between. And to be honest, I didn't do a great job in this recording. I probably should have gone back and re-recorded some of it, but I recorded this on my lunch break between lessons, and you get what you get and you don't get upset. But a general rule of thumb that will help you play this section is when you're going down, think up, and when you're going up, think down. When you're going up for a high note, especially from a lower note, it's very easy to find yourself tensed up trying to get that upper note to happen. But if we relax and let our air do the work and use just the right amount of tension that we need, we can make that upper note speak resonantly and in tune. Similarly, if we're coming down from a high note to a low note, it's easy to let all this relax way too much, and suddenly we're cracking notes, or we land on the right note, but it's super flat because we just let our embouchures go. So when you're going from top to bottom, think like you're still engaging those corner muscles like you would be on that top note, just to ensure you're on the right pitch and that pitch is centered. And after what seems like an eternity of playing octave slurs from A flat to A flat, and then some other intervals, but it all feels the same once you've been playing for about 3 minutes, we finally return to the main theme that Charlier presents in the introduction, this time written out in a meter of 6/8. And usually we think of 6/8 as being what we would call a compound meter, where our main source of beat is divided into 3 subdivisions. But this is one of those rare times that 6/8 is truly 6/8 notes, where our 8th note gets the beat. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. With a little bit of practice, this will all start to make sense to you. And here towards the end of our piece, we have yet more octave slurs and even a scalar approach to the highest note of the piece within the last line. There are a couple different ways you could approach that B flat at the end of this etude. You could try to blow it super duper loud, but I think it shows more maturity if you approach it with a little bit of restraint and demonstrate that you can play a soft, controlled upper register, which is kind of what I did in the recording. Now, believe it or not, one of the most difficult technical aspects of this etude occurs right within the last, 2 measures, and that is a trill. Now, there's a trill from a B flat to a C. Don't worry about playing all 6 beats of that measure. Charlier does give us an ad lib. Just kind of have fun with it. Play the crescendo decrescendo, and then the little lick up to, what is it, an F? It's an F, and then a little bit of a descending set of 16th notes. But dare I say the most deceptively challenging part of this etude is the final trill from F to G flat, not G natural. Double check that key signature. So for this trill, instead of trilling from F first valve to G flat second valve, Charlier suggests we play from F first valve to G flat 1, 2, and 3. And this can be very cumbersome, and you might find it extremely difficult to play that trill fast. So really take advantage of that ad lib to maybe make that trill a little bit shorter, maybe not make it as fast, maybe start it kind of slow, get it as fast as you can, and then cadence on that final B flat. And folks, that is how you play Charlier number 2. If you want to learn how to play another very famous trumpet etude, might I suggest you watch this video on how to play Arbin Characteristic Study number 1. We'll see you next week for whatever video I decide to make. I haven't figured that out yet. Bye!